This is Dr. Juarez. She is a teacher here in the College of Education, and we decided to interview her about what she thinks about technology in the school systems. And so what's your opinion on the technology either in elementary schools, junior high, through college? How do you feel about that?
Well, definitely, and for the technology is changing the world that we live in. It's really changed. I remember cell phones being gigantic and, the first microwaves and so on. So technology is really changing not only the way we interact with each other everywhere else, but in schools too. And I think there's some, good things about that and some less helpful ways that it's changing us. I personally use technology in my classroom. I did as an elementary school teacher also. But I think also that there's limitations in that sometimes teachers in particular forget that the technology is a tool for their teaching and they make it become the teacher. So, for example, teachers will put a PowerPoint up there, and instead of them teaching, the PowerPoint becomes the new teacher, and the kids are supposed to read off of it, or the teacher reads off of it. And so the teacher becomes a technician of technology rather than a teacher facilitating learning through using technology. One of the issues that I have as a college professor is, of course we want our students to go out into the world more prepared and knowing about the technologies out there. So I'm really glad that you all are learning how to blog. Those kind of things I didn't learn. In fact, I feel like I need to sit through the class that you all have to take so that I can learn some of these things because it wasn't taught when I was going through teacher education. I do remember I did have a technology course, but technology has changed so much. So I was learning how to use an overhead projector. And, you put the transparency on backwards and the words come up on the wall wrong or whatever. And now some of my graduate students laugh because I still will pull out some overheads. And they're like, oh, look at Dr. Juarez, she's using her overhead. And they think that's quaint and funny from the past, but we actually had to have a class learning how to use it. But blogging, Twittering, all that stuff had not come about. So now I find myself at where I'm really dependent on my students to help me with things like in our class that one day, and we got put into another classroom, and one of your classmates was so cute when I had to go get help to run the machine, and they were saying, well, you have to calibrate the pencil. And the one student said, well, don't worry about it, she won't use it anyway. Which is true, it's like, whatever. And so I'm glad you're learning how to blog and make iPods. I don't even know what it's
podcast.
Podcast, that's it. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But, I'm glad you all do. So I think that's really important. The side of it that I always have to think about, especially with the kind of research that I do, is we have to think about why are we using technology? What is the purpose that we're doing? You don't just use technology for technology's sake. And so just because something has a lot more bells and whistles doesn't mean it's necessarily better. And so I really find myself, put in this corner sometimes where I'm being labeled as like anti-technology, and I'm not, but I have a chalkboard and I chalk and talk. I'm like lost without a chalkboard. So now I have a smart board. Luckily in the classroom that we're in, I have a chalkboard and a smart board. But in the spring semester, they put me in another room that they took the chalkboards out. And I am so hampered in my teaching with that smart board, because it's only, you know, this wide, and I use the full range, and I fill it up, as you know. And so it's really hard for me to be confined to this little space. It doesn't always change pages quickly enough. There's a lag between what I'm writing and what shows up. It really causes problems for me. I find myself wanting to take my pen and just starting writing on the paint job on the wall. Like, you paint over it. You don't even give me a chalkboard. I need the tools that I need to be able to teach. And this little thing, it's like you tied my arms behind my back. I asked about that. I said, I need a chalkboard. And it's like, well, that's the wave of the future. Come with us. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily better. You know, if I can get my message apart, just because something is tied to the internet doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. Say, well, here's a new and improved form, and let's run with that. And if you don't, then you must be anti-technology, which isn't necessarily true. So I say in my class is a naked class, which always gets some laughs, you know. And some people are very concerned, and some people are excited. They're like, all right, and because they think it's no clothes. But yes, clothes are required. The reason it's naked is for two reasons. Because the only technology I want to see in my classroom is paper, some paper, and a pencil or a pen. That's all. We need some time to be able to interact as human beings, not so mediated with technology. And some of my students are so addicted to their phone that they find it difficult to put it down for a little while. And I don't think that they realize, having grown up with it, I don't think that they realize that there's a certain amount of time and space that you need as a human being to just kind of think about things. Have it quiet for a while. I get overwhelmed sometimes when I have to check my email at my office. I have to check my Yahoo account, my Facebook messages. I feel like I'm under surveillance all the time. And sometimes it's like, wow, I'm a prisoner of technology, because you know, people can reach me in so many ways. And you even hear people who are in the restroom, and they'll be like, you know, their phone is beeping, or they'll take a call or answer a text message. And so in some ways, it's so incredible that we can reach each other in so many ways. In other ways, I think it's limiting, because we're losing some of those real human face-to-face communication things, and we're you know, my girls, for example, will say to each other, BRB. I do think, you know, because kids are growing up with it, you know, they have to be taught to be critical consumers of it. So I can see where you would want to do something with very young children, with blogging or something they can communicate. But if you don't teach people to be critical about it and to think about what they're doing and why they're doing it, you're just teaching kids, well, look, there's one more space we can blog. We can blog at home, and we're going to blog at home at school too. You know, that doesn't make a lot of sense to just do that. So, but if you're using technology to help people learn to think about their world, then I think it can be very helpful.
We appreciate this. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.